We are now live.
Hi, my name is Britton Wolf. I'm the chief political strategist for Governor Dow. I want to thank everybody here in the audience for joining with us. I'll be your host in this event, and I'm also accompanied by two of the founders of Governor Dow, as well as two of the founders of Finnovant. And I'd like to introduce them and give them a quick moment to give themselves a introduction. Cody, I'm accompanied by Cody Dyer and John Greenwood from Governor Dow, and Brian Ma and Chris Benedict from Finnovant. Cody, would you like to give us a brief introduction?
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. How's it going, Britton? Thanks, guys, for having us here today on BrightTalk. And I know we're really excited. Been doing a lot of prep for this. My name is Cody Dyer. I'm the head of business development of Governor Dow. I'm here with my partner, John Greenwood, to discuss the one voice, one vote and verification and biometrics on the blockchain. And I appreciate you guys for taking the time today. So, John, if you want to discuss a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Cody. So my name is John Greenwood. I do blockchain integrations here at Governor Dow. I am, very passionate about the industry. I really love the fact that, we're working in tandem with both blockchain and biometrics. We're really excited about the work that we're doing and can't wait for the future products that we're unrolling. So with that being said, let's get those other guys introduced.
Thanks, John. Now, Chris, would you be able to kick it off for us for the Finnovant side?
Sure. Thanks, Britton. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Chris Benedict, and I lead the sales and marketing team at Finnovant. We're really excited to be here today, and this is great technology, great use of new things, putting two things together. And we're excited to share that with you today. So with me, as one of my co-founders at Finnovant, is Brian Ma. He's our CEO. I'll let Brian introduce himself.
Thank you, Chris. And thanks so much to the BrightTalk community and for all of you that are able to join us today. We're going to talk about a bunch of components as we go through the discussion. We'll talk about biometrics. We'll talk about the blockchain. And these are very important and near and dear to our heart. We'll also cover cryptocurrencies, data interactions, data fabrics, IoT in general, permissionless authentication, voter and identity and unemployment fraud. And we view these as being important concepts that we'd like to teach you about during this session and impart some great information and knowledge as we talk through each of these topics. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Now, for the rest of this this webinar, what we'll be doing, I'll be asking a series of questions to each of these individuals based on their expertise and what they best are suited to educate us on. And so we're going to kick it off with the first question here. And so I want to ask John, how did your organizations come to be, and how did they collide?
Thank you, Britton. Interesting story behind that. Approximately a year ago, I had just kind of got stuck down here in Alabama. I'd come down to visit, and with the coronavirus, it turned into a long-term stay, unfortunately. So I was looking for work. I found Finnovant, and I was working with them part-time in their marketing team, and I love the product. It was great. I saw the general use of the biometric app as being, something that everything should have. At first I was like, well, it should be in this industry. It should be in this industry. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, well, what industry shouldn't it be in? And but what kept coming back to me was, the blockchain, which is something that I've been passionate about now for 7 years. At the end of the day, I ended up having to kind of walk away. My life had changed a bit, but the tech stayed with me. I still kept in touch with the guys from Finnovant. At the same time, I had gotten back in touch with an old friend of mine, Cody Dyer, who is with me here today. We are both passionate about blockchain. We were talking about it, and I had talked to him about some of the tech that Finnovant had, and how I really have this vision for blockchain biometrics. And Cody agreed with that, and we in tandem kind of decided to make it happen. So around that same time, there was a project that had just been taken advantage of, and its members actually came together and decided to reboot the program for themselves. That project is now called Governor DAO, and that's what I work for. And at the time, Cody was a victim of that original theft of his investment, basically, and he basically told me, well, the team's being run by itself, so let's get together and get the introduction started. So I mean, it went very, very quickly. Within a short period of time, Finnovant and Governor DAO were in constant contact, and it's been like that ever since. Honestly, these guys have been pretty much an integral part of our lives for the past 4 months now, and moving forward, I'm sure we'll continue to be that way. So at the end of the day, it's really just a synergy that seems like it was meant to happen.
Thank you, John.
Great. If I can comment on that, it was great to have John here at Finnovant. He brought a lot of blockchain and crypto experience and knowledge to the team, and a lot of passion for what he does. So I file it under timing is everything. John was here. He was here for a reason. He learned about the biometrics, but he was looking for something that was much more blockchain focused. So he went off to do that, and here we are a few months later. And here we are with a product that's new and different, and it's the first time. So thanks, John. Thanks, Britton.
That's incredible. That's awesome that John was able to kind of merge these two organizations together. Now, the next question I have, Brian, where is the future of biometric authentication heading?
Yeah, thank you so much, Britton. That's a great question. And as we think about biometric authentication, we really think about how this has impacted the industry to date. And we can go back in time and think about our iPhones and how we use our devices. And in prior versions, you might have turned on the fingerprint scanner. And we found that that wasn't so secure after a while. But that's some of your biometrics. And then things started to get further into facial scans and retina scans and voice technology. And what we found was over time, this started to get better and more advanced, and the technology started to really work well. So as we see it, we think about both voice and facial biometrics. This is a great opportunity to integrate a dual authentication method so that each person can be individually identified every time they try to do something. So we think about, the common access into a banking app. Somebody that's trying to access their digital wallet. Maybe it's a cryptocurrency wallet in Web 3.0. Maybe somebody's trying to securely vote and identify themselves. There could be a need to call into a voice recognition and response system. Maybe you want to update your address. Maybe you need to order something online and pay for something. And we think about biometrics both in the voice and facial sense combined together. And if they can uniquely identify you, imagine what that means for the future. So if you're worried about buying a bunch of cryptocurrency and forgetting that long password and losing all of your money, imagine if all it took was some biometrics and you didn't have to remember that every time. Maybe you stored it someplace securely, but you didn't have to remember it every time. Imagine how much easier your life would be, or to gain access to your banking app or anything else you're doing online. And think about if you feel more secure accessing your information such that a fraudster cannot come in behind you and steal what is so important to you and what is so valuable to you. And this is where we view the future of biometrics. And what makes it even stronger and better is the use of the blockchain and how the blockchain fits in. And now we have secure access, which can be recorded and immutable forever. And this is a great thing because it changes the dynamics in a way we didn't see 5 years ago. And it's very important and something we'll continue to talk about during this conversation. And thank you so much for that question.
Absolutely. It's incredible to see the advancement in technology over the years. I love the example of the iPhone. Now, Cody, the title for this this presentation is one voice, one vote, biometric authentication. Now, for you, what does one voice, one vote mean?
Thanks, Britton. To me, one voice, one vote is a standard for fair vote, and bringing in the level. I can prove that you are who you say you are and prove that your vote is your vote. And in no world can your identity be faked. And in a time where trust for media and government is at an all-time low, we aim to bring a standard for authentication and verification that is unparalleled. And I think that this relationship has the potential to create a totally new standard, like I've said, that will infinitely scale out. And I'm very proud to be building this product.
Fantastic. Now, John, I'm sure that many of our audience aren't aware of what a DAO is, what that means. Could you kind of illustrate to us what is a DAO?
Yeah, absolutely, Britton. That's not a problem. So a DAO, a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, it's a business model or a strategy generally used on the blockchain. Basically, it allows for the holders to also be the owners of the business model. So just like you have an LLC where you have a business where you have owners, you have workers, you have consumers. A lot of times here with DAOs, the holders are the people that make the final decision, and it's set up with governance in mind. Governance being the fact that everybody has an equal input based upon their holdings or their input. So they have a vote and they have their funds that they put in, and they are able to determine where those funds go and where the whole future of the business goes. So with this model, it's getting very interesting because now in Wyoming, for instance, we are currently in line for becoming a DAO. They just passed legislation for this. So this is something that to most people sounds like a far off, distant thing. It's really not. This is already here, and this is something that is already being embraced. We are looking to try to become the first, actually, to be legally recognized as a DAO. So with a DAO, we're able to turn things like a barber shop or a pizza shop into a DAO, right? And it sounds a little bit ridiculous coming from blockchains to pizza shops or barber shops, but that it's a very easy step. So you could have someone with a small barber shop and get them to resituate it so that it is set up as a DAO. So they could go from a sole proprietorship and turn that into a DAO, which would basically mean that the customers would be the final holders as well. So you'd have a situation where everyone is incentivized to basically share data and resources, and the final outcome is shared amongst all. So there's a great situation that we get to see with pretty much every DAO out there. So very happy to be working on one, and hopefully going forward we can work with many more DAOs.
Thank you, John. Now, Cody, being the head of business development at Governor DAO, can you elaborate a little bit more about the extent of the services Governor DAO provides?
Certainly. Currently under development is our extensive full service suite, including a wide variety of governance and decentralized ownership strategies. These are tailored to level up any unique organization on the blockchain currently and bridge traditional financial structures into a decentralized model. That could consist of liquidity generation events or governance and contractual services. And we're trying to create a standard for how these businesses are viewed and the bridge of these gaps from traditional financial structure into the decentralized financial world.
Wow, that's a lot. Now, John. Now, Brian, what products is Finnovant currently developing?
Let me jump in on that one if I can, Britton, if you don't mind.
Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. At its core, what we try to do is we try to focus on problems first. If you look on our website, you'll see that our mission is really about helping people use their information smarter and make their businesses run better. So where does that come from? So if we were in an auditorium today, unfortunately we're doing this remotely, but if we were in an auditorium, I'd ask everybody, okay, how many people have 10 passwords or more to remember, business or personal, and the whole place would raise their hands. Let's talk about 20, 30, 50. And I'd be willing to bet that most everyone who's watching this would keep their hand up, right? We all have too many passwords. So how is that an opportunity for us, but how is that a problem for you? We all know that keeping track of all the passwords that we have for business, for personal, for family, is a nightmare, right? There's no other way to describe it. With fraudsters getting smarter and smarter, especially around social engineering. Did you know, by the way, that social engineering over the past few years is a $25 to $30 billion problem? It's huge. So we are all stuck with a legacy format of ID and password, which is insecure, which can be hacked and stolen, and where 40% of the people in this auditorium write down their passwords or keep them in a file on their computer. So it's huge risk, both your personal and your business logons and access. We can replace all that. So when we talk about what we're developing, we can replace all that with simple biometrics. It works. It works in today's environments, whether it's on device, in the cloud, or on a single sign-on, anything like that. So it's there. You take that now and you move into the new world, or what the decentralized finance. That's where our focus is also. Because with the technology, with DAOs, with things that Governor DAO is doing, and things in the blockchain space, technology is advancing so fast, we want to be part of that. So we're looking at what are the solutions that people are going to need in a Web3 environment, and whether that's proving your existence, whether it's protecting your existence and controlling your own identity online, that's where we want to be. So yes, we're in that space. Yes, there's a lot going on, but we're starting at our core expertise of biometric authentication, and adding that and bringing that to the new technologies as we go forward.
Thank you, Chris. Now, John, you've worked with both organizations and you've worked on both teams. You understand the products and the technology of both sides. What dynamics do you notice most within the synergies of these innovative technologies?
Yeah, Britton. I mean, and it really, just to go back to what I said at the beginning of how, I've kind of found both these companies and why I really thought they worked well together from the beginning. They complement each other, So we have biometrics, which is something that is already used today. Most likely 40-50% or more of the world has a phone that is, biometric enhanced. So fingerprints are widely used and have been for some time. With the blockchain, this is something that's new, that's advanced, and it's still in its growing stage. I mean, people talk every day about how, the bubble, or this is the new thing, or, this is still so infancy. It's still so early in its infancy that I think, it complements well with the biometrics that we can enhance it with. So just like biometrics have been around for a little bit, but they've kind of gotten a little bit stagnant in the sense that this technology with the blockchain allows us to make it immutable. So putting the two together allows your final product to come out where we have biometrics based on face and voice technology. Those are able to interact with the blockchain and actually keep someone anonymous, but keep them identifiable, while also keeping them Sybil resistant. So meaning that there can only be one person. So, if you have an address on crypto currently, on the blockchain, I should say, pick a blockchain, if you have an address, you could have multiple addresses. With our technology, we're able to enforce being able to only exist as one person, if that's what is required. So we can't have multiple people voting from different accounts, and this scales across the board. So the biometrics come together to the blockchain to make things better. In the process, the blockchain also hardens the biometrics because it's, like I said, it's immutable. It's not able to be taken off. And it's also a layer 2 technology that's taking and, giving a life to biometrics again and really bringing a whole new accord into the equation. So I think the two really do complement each other, and I see the teams work together flawlessly. I see the products work together flawlessly. So in my mind, blockchain and biometrics is the way to go.
No brainer.
Thank you, John. Now, Brian, John has really given us a real vision of how these two technologies work well together. Where do you see, where do you think the biggest disruption comes for these products?
Yeah, thank you, Britton. That's a great question. So let's think a little bit about some of the topics we raised at the beginning of this conversation. We think about what John just talked about, the blockchain, the immutable nature of what we're doing. Think about cryptocurrencies and data interactions and how the IoT space fits into this. So we think about disruptions that are just incredible. Imagine getting up and going to your fridge and saying, oh, I need to get some more fruit and vegetables, and just speaking into your fridge and making the purchase.
We'll get that for you now, Brian.
Maybe you don't want your kids to order, a bunch of ice cream. And this is a way that, the disruption happens. And imagine, starting your car up in the morning. Maybe your car is an autonomous car and you rent it from time to time as part of the gig economy. And you can summon it, you can start it, you can send it to have the gas filled and pay it using your voice and your face. So these disruptions usher in a whole new society. It brings cost savings. It brings incredible synergies in our life that saves time and energy and helps us to expand our capabilities as people and in what we're trying to do in society with our families. So this disruption is just amazing. It really opens up so many potentials in the area of IoT, the blockchain. We think about our smartphone devices. We talked about the iPhone. We have the Android device. We have tablets. We have our desktops, our laptops, our ultrabooks. Biometrics can feed through all of that, plus your camera at the door of your house, the lighting inside your house, the lock on your door. Everything that you're doing can now be controlled very easily. All of the IoT devices, everything you're interacting with. And in particular, as we move into the area of biometrics on the blockchain and cryptocurrency, this is an area that we're seeing explosive growth, not only in the United States, but around the world. And imagine if buying and selling cryptocurrency is recorded securely on the blockchain, and your voice and your face are making this happen such that nobody can steal your information, and you're able to transact securely and safely in everything you do. Imagine that disruption. And that is what we're so excited about. And thank you for that question.
Absolutely. That's incredible. Now, Chris, where do you see the future of decentralized finance?
I think that traditional finance is going to have a problem. I'm probably not the only one to say that. I'm not the first person to say it. But look at the adoption of decentralized finance already. Look at how the blockchain and cryptocurrency dominates the news cycle and dominates conversations, and how many people are engaged. And still, it's only 15 to 20% of the US population is actually actively engaged with cryptocurrencies or the blockchain. So if you think back about traditional finance, right? It's a model that's been established for a really long time. If you wanted to borrow money, you had to go to the bank for a loan for your car, for a mortgage, or you had to put money in the account to pay your bills, whether write a check or pay with a card online or whatever the case may be. So it's a really ingrained model that people are used to using, but there's a lot of friction in the model, and people are adopting decentralized finance tremendously fast. So think about Now, instead of borrowing money, going to the bank and paying, you know, I don't know, 15% for a car loan or 10% or whatever the number is, I can take my own money, my own cryptocurrency, and I can stake it. I can borrow against it. And guess what? I never lose my initial investment. That's something you can do with DeFi. People are starting to figure that out. You can invest with, if you want, online into different cryptocurrencies or projects, DAOs, whatever the case may be, that you may not have had access to in the past. You can do your own research. So decentralized finance, in my opinion, is really the great playing field leveler, if that's a term, in that you used to have certain advantages or accesses in order to get into participating in the financial system, right? Now, whether you're in New York or LA or you're in some remote part of the world, as long as you have a smart device, you have access to decentralized finance. You can get online, you can buy DAO, you can trade, you can invest, you can borrow money, you can lend money. You can all do that you can do all of that with a smartphone, which you couldn't do in the past. So technology has really ramped up and pushed decentralized finance forward, and it's created a problem, I think, for traditional finance. So at the end of the day, what's the model going to look like 5, 10 years from now? I think it's hard to say. But at first, if you look at the traditional financial institutions and their kind of their resistance to anything blockchain and crypto, fast forward to today where they're much more open about it. Some are actually giving access to their customers. I think that they see that the times are a-changing and they do need to adapt and change to compete. So decentralized finance, I think, is the future because people can control it themselves without any special access, privileges, or wealth in order to get involved.
Awesome, Chris. I'm very excited about the future of decentralized finance. I know over the last year we've watched it go from being a $1 billion industry to over $100 billion industry. I believe that's going to continue to grow.
It's terrific, Britton. And if I could just add one more comment, one of the things when we started the conversations with Governor, that's something that really came through in working with the team there. Everyone was so focused on the democratization of finance or access to finance. It was really an appealing thought for me. How do we make sure that everyone has equal opportunity in what they do going forward? You don't need a lot of money to get involved. You need a smartphone and access. That's it.
It's that simple. Well, John, would you say that there's any sort of connection or comparability to the current crypto craze that we're experiencing to that of the earlier .com bubble?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in general, you can compare it, first of all, to the .com craze, right? So, in the same way that everyone in the early 90s was picking up, Hewlett Packard and all the rest, nowadays people are seeing this ability for cryptocurrency to really take over that spot. I mean, and it's booming, more than ever. So, here I think that there's a really good comparison for the crypto craze and the original craze that you saw in the .com movement. As far as this bubble, you hear this term everywhere. I mean, I think that people need to remember one big thing with this, So, this is the technical term for this is economics, but we don't even talk about economics. We talk about tokenomics, right? So, something here that is really worth taking a look at is that all these high level individuals, not to name any names, but they'll get on the news and they'll tell you that this is all a bubble, it's going to collapse, this is a craze, this is a phase, this is like a bunch of young kids fighting the government. There's a couple of things we can dispel there. Half of our team is over 40, let's say, so that's not the case, but I really think that there's no bubble here. The bubble really, in my opinion, is on the US dollar side and on the fiat currency side. It's literally waiting to collapse completely, and crypto is willing to take over where it needs to. We know that this is a safer way. We know that this is a better way. We know that this is the most secure way and the most authoritative way in order to give people true, full access to their assets. And, with this type of, adoption, I don't think you're going to ever see a bubble. The market may correct. We saw a huge market correction the other day. People lost their shirts in some cases. This is just like any other market. But as far as there being a bubble overall, this is here to stay. And trust me when I say this will always be here. And in closing, really, I think of America Online, right? I was really young at the time, but I remember everywhere I went, there was those little AOL CDs everywhere. You check out at the pharmacy or, the grocery store. It was, take one, or, I think they charged for them or something at one point. But, everyone had to have one because, if you didn't have America Online, or Dish or something like that, you didn't have service. They had such a monopoly on it. But where is the AOL today? The other day I actually got notified that my AOL account password may have been breached. I'm not even going to update it because I haven't used it since high school. It's something that is no longer even existent. Most college kids and high school kids wouldn't even know what AOL is. So, I think that goes to show you how these tech companies, the bubble created by them is completely different than the positive economic situation created by cryptocurrency and its proper use and proper implementation.
Thank you, John. Now, Brian, what is the global evolution and adoption of biometric technology?
Yeah, Britton, thank you for that wonderful question. So from a biometric perspective, we talked about this a little bit earlier in that on your iPhone device, you started using biometrics with your fingerprint. And then we saw this transition into other biometrics, which included your face and your voice and things like your retina scan. And so this has taken quite a while, for a number of years, for this to kind of take hold, and especially with facial recognition, because in the beginning, cameras were just not as sharp as they are now. And now you can get a phone that has just incredible depth and vision with the camera systems and multiple cameras on the devices and ability to take videos so that you have sound, which is your voice and your face encapsulated together. So there's lots of neat ways now to capture biometrics. And we think about the global adoption. There's always been an important push in Southeast Asia for things like facial technology. And we see this in a lot of countries now. We see it in implementations for shopping. We see it in implementations for recognition at airports and in facilities where people are gaining access. So it's getting more widespread. It's getting used around the world. And we're now seeing that the implementation of biometrics in a combination together, such as the voice and the face, is becoming more prevalent and things like that, because one biometric is fine, although sometimes it can be breached. And there are various ways that the fraudsters have figured out how to do this. But when you have two biometrics together, it creates an indefeatable security. And we just don't see fraudsters being able to break through that. And that is why we believe voice and face is the way to go. So we think about this globally. We started off with kind of the one biometric. We think about things like the payment systems. We think about access to your funds, your money, your cryptocurrency, your bank account, maybe your insurance information. And when we think about these things, we don't want somebody else to come in behind us and gain access. We do not want to open an account, have it sit there, and have that information stolen. That's not going to help us. It's not going to help the customer. It's not going to create a secure environment. And in fact, for companies that are implementing apps, they're implementing websites and things like Web 3.0 interactions, we realize that customers prefer to feel that they're secure when they're using these applications. And we've seen this in the payments industry. This is a prime example of where authentication has moved from country to country, right? We had the swipe on the mag stripe for a card, and eventually we got to the chip cards, and now we have online security. It's the same thing with biometrics. It started off with your fingerprint. It started off with some low-level facial recognition and some sound recognition. And we've finally reached the point where we've made this very sophisticated. And it's at a point where it's 100%. And so we're able to very securely authenticate somebody. And when they're accessing their private information in this country, in China, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa, in South America, wherever it is globally, we've seen that transition from early on when we only checked one biometric and it wasn't that good, until now when we have better cameras, better sound systems, and we can check two biometrics and securely authenticate somebody anywhere on Earth. So that is the transition from the past to the future. And we are living it right now. And that is why we're so excited about this technology making its way into our everyday lives.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Now, Chris, what are the main advantages of voice and facial biometrics?
When I think of advantages, I think about how it applies to us, to the average person, and what makes sense to us. And to me, it comes down to two words: easy and secure. Once you're enrolled with a biometric program, and enrollment is fairly easy, it's easy from that point forward. There are no passwords to remember. There are no more single-use passwords when you forget. You forget a password and you have to reset it. You can do that with your biometrics as well. It becomes very easy, and you take what can be a high friction experience, just logging on to an account, whether it's your bank account, a credit card account, a website, doesn't matter. If you forget, if it's something that you don't use that often, or as we know, we have a lot of passwords to remember, you don't know what they are. Do you feel secure storing it in a browser? Maybe, maybe not. What that means is your experience when you log on to sites becomes difficult. And what we are trying to do, what we can do is take that and make it an easy experience. You enroll, there's no more single-use passphrases, there's no more emails getting sent to verify that it's you, so that you can log on and get access. So it makes things easier and faster. The other thing I think about is secure, and that's as important or more important than easy is. I think we're all willing to sacrifice a little bit of ease for better security, but that doesn't mean we like it. Well, with biometrics now, you can like it and it's still secure. So there's only one of you, there's only one of your face, there's only one of your voice. So the biometrics captures different aspects of that and creates a biometric print that no one else has. So we take that, it's encrypted, it's hashed, it's stored securely and broken up so no one can reassemble it without a key. So it's no good to anybody. So the main advantages are that it's easy and secure, and the use cases are unlimited. I know Brian talked about that a little bit when he just spoke, but it is virtually unlimited. If you think about logons, if you think about password resets, money transfers, step-up authentication, say you're shopping online and all of a sudden now you want to spend a lot of money online, they rather than call customer service or decline the transaction because it's out of pattern, you can now authenticate yourself with your biometrics and they know indeed that it is you and that transaction can go forward. So it can, from a business perspective, it can reduce the number of negative engagement points with consumers that they have to go through now. If I want to buy that $10,000 restoration hardware patio set online, chances are I'm going to get a call from the bank. Now, if they can put it in place biometrics and they can be confident that it's me, I can just go forward free and easy, and I don't have to have that high friction experience. So that's it, ease and security.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I definitely am looking for ease and security when it comes to this kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, John, can you I know that Governor Dow released their proof of concept today. Can you kind of elaborate that a little bit more for me?
Yeah, absolutely, Britton. So we did, in fact. So after many months of work, not just Governor Dow, but Governor Dow, ex-Finnovant, we have gotten together and we have officially released the POC, our proof of concept, which we will link to momentarily as an announcement. But with that, we've also released a product suite that includes a global whitelist, and a future global blacklist, as well as other types of metrics that we can take out of it. So currently, for example, someone can come to our current proof of concept with their Ethereum wallet. They can register. They can provide 3 short video clips to verify. And next thing you know, they have a proof of existence token. It's a live beta on the testnet, so on the Rinkeby testnet. So, it's something right now that you can actually prove individual existence, as well as be ported over later to the actual fully functional model. So at the moment, it is fully functional, just a beginning model. But, what we plan to do with that in the future, and what we've already started to do even in this testnet, is take addresses that we know to be unique. Right, so only one person behind them. That person only has one address on the list. We know this to be true. We can then add them onto what we call the whitelist, and that is something that is highly sought after. Because now, other projects that are trying to get involved in the crypto space, they can take this, they can garner this whitelist, and they'll purchase it from us, in fact, and we can get them to use that for their internal metrics to make sure that they don't have people that are overspending, that have too much of a market cap, that are able to make multiple accounts, etc. So there's a lot of services that are provided through that. Beyond these basic services that we have in our live beta, we have a lot more coming up in the future. And, the future, because this is a modular item, the face and voice biometric technology that SATEC is created from, which Finnovant has, made, we are able to use that in a modular way and attach all different types of modules to it in order to perform different functions. So this can also be used in the real world for the next presidential election, just like it can be used, on the blockchain to, figure out where the next, vote goes. So, we can keep people anonymous, keep them honest. We can keep integrity. All these things come in tandem, and it's something that's beautiful to see.
Yeah, this is incredible. Now, Chris, how can biometric authentication enhanced by the blockchain virtually eliminate identity and unemployment fraud?
Fraud is a big issue, right? I've been talking about fraud through pretty much everything I've commented on today. So since the pandemic began, unemployment fraud specifically, which is a subset of total identity fraud, but unemployment fraud is in excess of $48 billion since the pandemic started, as reported by the U.S. Department of Labor. That's a huge number. So what does that mean? What that means is people are filing unemployment claims in someone else's name. And usually the victim doesn't know that happens until they get some sort of letter from the government, or they try to file their taxes, or they get a 1099-G, I think it's called, that shows that they've been collecting when they really haven't. So it is a big number. First, for identity fraud and unemployment fraud, biometrics can solve that. And there's different ways that municipalities and governments can help do that, because we want to do it in a way that people's identities are not, or their biometric prints are not misused, right? People are concerned about that. So the way we do things is that your biometric identity is hashed and broken down, and nobody can ever see it. We're not actually keeping a recording of you. whether it's your voice or your face. So you don't ever have to worry about that. So that's the identity fraud piece. But how does the blockchain make it even better? And the blockchain makes it immutable. So right now, you do a transaction or someone, defrauds and uses your name, and unfortunately, it's pretty easy for people to find out things like social security numbers. They're not secure anymore. You have to show it and give it to people all over the place. Through websites, social media sites, people can get more information about you. So social engineering really is effective, and the thieves are getting better at that. So at the end of the day, that data ends up being put in a database somewhere. So it always exists, right? It's there, but that existence is subject to fraud. It's subject to failure, corruption of data, and so forth. So that information, while there, whether it's good information or bad information, meaning you did it or you didn't do it, it's always subject to change. Tie that to the blockchain now, and that transaction gets recorded on the blockchain, and it's immutable. It never changes. So the data doesn't go away. It's there in perpetuity. And that's important. That's what makes the blockchain functionality much better than cloud storage or other, function specific, but it's immutable. It doesn't go away. It's there forever. So the power of marrying biometrics to the blockchain is tremendous.
Fascinating. Now, Chris, how does voice and facial authentication work, and what is the digital voice and facial print?
Okay.
And where is it stored?
Where's it stored? That's a great question. And I see that there's a couple questions coming in. Some folks are touching on that, and I'm hoping I can answer their questions here at the same time. But what a biometric print is, I talked about a little bit before, is we take characteristics of your voice and face, and there's many characteristics to both, and that gets captured, and it gets run through. It's all math, right? It comes down to math. It gets run through the big math, and it boils down to a mathematical representation of your biometrics, right? That then gets broken down, and depending on the use case, because it can be stored on your personal device, depending on that particular use case. If it's tied to an app, as an example. So let's say it was your banking app that decided to implement biometrics in SATEC. So it would be stored on your personal device. There are other applications where it might be stored in the cloud, but the key again is that it is a mathematical representation. It's not a recording. It's not of either your voice or face. It's not stored that way. So it's broken down, it's hashed, it's encrypted, and it's broken that you need a key to reassemble it. So one person watching is asking about, if people in the crypto space are hesitant about giving their identity, and that makes perfect sense. So I'll leave it to the governor guys to talk a little bit more about their PoE token that they're launching. But what it allows you to do is your data is safe, right? Because no one can reconstruct it. There's no way anybody can take it and use it against you. So that's what a digital biometric print is. It's all that stuff broken down into a math equation, into mathematical number, and broken up. So your personal identity is secure and safe. I hope that answers some of the questions that people are writing in.
Yeah, I hope that helps for our audience. But guys, please continue posting more questions. We will get to those at the end. We saved some space for that. So the next question I have is for Cody. And I'm sorry, this next question is for actually John. Now, John, do you see any competitors for your current products? And what kind of hurdles do you think you might face in the future?
Awesome questions again, Britton. So the competitors in this space are few and far between when it comes to blockchain biometrics. So there is one or two very vague projects out there that do exist, that do things in a completely different way, where your data is actually stored on the chain publicly, so it would be fully identifiable. It also does not have the technology that we have here. This technology does adapt to you in real time. It's able to age with you. It's able to change with your voice and everything else, voice, face, everything. So, I mean, with that being said, it really narrows it down. There is big industry out there for access management, that is much bigger than we are, obviously. But what they don't have is they don't have the blockchain background. They don't have the blockchain technology background to see how to integrate that correctly. And I think really most importantly, they just don't have this magic that we've had, working together, where the two projects mesh up to be a perfect pair. They fit together like a puzzle piece. And I think that, just like I said earlier, how they complement each other really brings, our product to the top of the list. So out of the very short stack, I think that we are at the top at the moment. We're looking to continue to bolster that position. So, the hurdles that we're really going to face, the scalability of this is everything. So, I mean, I would be lying if I told you that, even today with the release, everything went 1,000% smoothly. I mean, with new technology like this, sometimes there's, issues just like everything else. But the fundamentals are in place. There's no way for anyone to ever get access to, what your fingerprint is. In the event that it, was leaked or whatever, there is actually nothing to be, garnered from that. So because of these, situations, the failures we can have are purely systemic. So, functions may cease temporarily. So, if you wanted to claim your free NFT, you might not be able to do that for, 20 minutes here and there. But besides that, it's really about getting the integration within other projects. So to date, we've had quite a few other projects that have reached out to us and that are looking for this technology. We're looking also into real world businesses. We're looking at the state of Wyoming specifically, for the Governor Dow side with a lot of our stuff. So I think that in this space, the hurdles really just come from natural growth in a space that's uncharted. Every day we wake up and we do something that there's no dummies guide for. There's a lot of things and decisions we've had to make so far that there's just no set way, So I think that going through those uncharted waters, we're going to find stuff that we're going to get snagged on. But so far, we have never had a problem making a very quick and easy turnaround. And, with a product set like this, there won't be a service downtime that's going to affect users, that's going to stop them from sending currency or something else, because that's not what our product does, at least not at this time. So I think that any downtime or any types of obstacles are inevitable, but we're in a perfect position to take care of them in a timely manner, and we're in a perfect position to keep growing and making this better.
Thank you, John. I think we could definitely equate this to, almost pioneers blazing a trail and, this new niche within this technology and new technology. So thank you for that.
It really is. Like I said, there is no dummies guide for this. There might be dummies guide for blockchain, but there definitely isn't one for, blockchain biometrics, set up in a DAO. I mean, there's just doesn't exist. So
not yet.
We'll write it one day. Now, Cody, I'm going to give you the final question we have before we open this up to the public for our audience for Q&A. But Cody, what hopes do you have for this space? And I'll add to this, what is your aim for the future?
My aim for the future. In the future, I believe that the most valuable assets are going to be assets that own other assets, and companies that own other companies, and tokens that own other tokens. It took 70 years for 100 million people to use the telephone, but it only took 3 months for 100 million people to play Candy Crush. So the rate that these technologies are excelling is only increasing the rate at which they are adopted. This time last year, it was only about 6% of Americans that are holding cryptocurrency, and now it's about upwards around 15%. And I believe that everyone will be a part of a DAO of some sort or another in the future. I think it's going to be a buzzword that we find at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And I think everyone will have registered biometrically on the blockchain. And I'm hoping that we as an organization will be working with representatives and legislators at the state level to make a global governance body that is by the people, for the people, that can aid humanity in any organization we interact with. And for example, we'll be aiding Finnovant in the launch of their token BioFi in Q3. And we're really looking forward to the synergy that this superpower will create and the potential of the endless potential that these technologies and the power that comes with it. And I'm really proud to be building this.
Awesome. Thank you, Cody. Now, I want to thank our panel for for answering these questions, and now we're going to open it up for Q&A at this point. I'm going to start with this question here. So this comment here says, "Hello, everyone. This is a very impressive presentation. Incredibly many potential applications here. I have 3 questions. Are there any considerations to use fingerprint as authentication method in the future, or is there something against it?" And I'll open that up to whoever wants to answer that, and we'll go to the next question.
Finnovant guys probably take that on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I think, fingerprint, we saw fingerprint early on as one of the early biometrics. We're not opposed to using fingerprints in a biometric authentication, but it does have some security flaws that we found by watching it and observing the growth, as we talked about earlier, globally. And so what we found is that voice and face really are the perfect combination. And I think for those of you who have an opportunity to check out Governor Dow's implementation, it'll actually be a lot of fun for you to see that in place. And we have a few more apps and things on the market, one called Cryptic, which is spelled KRPTIC, coming out, which shows a great implementation of voice and face biometrics. And all of this together, as you see, and there's a password manager as well called Fort DB Chain that has a great implementation. So Governor Dow is quite wonderful. And I think once you see voice and face together and understand how secure and easy and user-friendly it is, it'll be wonderful for you to use. And could we use fingerprints in the future? Possibly. We haven't given up on them, but we found a very secure solution with these 2 biometrics and look forward to great products like Governor Dow's.
Thanks, Brian. Now I'm going to carry on with the next second part of this question. The question is, so the question is, what about the implementation on other blockchains, aside from just the Ethereum network?
I can probably just field that one pretty quickly. So our intent is to create, omni-chain authenticity and being able to make this, transferable across all networks and all mediums and, Binance Smart Chain, XDAI, Matic, wherever there needs to be authentication, we aim to have an authentication portal or at least something that can do that for you or integrate that for you.
Thank you, Cody. Now, the final question that this individual had is, what about a changing voice? What happens if my voice changes over time as I age?
I'll jump in on that one. I'll jump in, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's another great question. It's one we get all the time, and it comes down to degree, right? Over time, your voice is going to change, but it's going to change so slowly over time that the AI that's built into the solution is going to see that and catch that and understand what it is. It's going to learn over time. Where it's a huge difference. One of the questions we always get is, well, what if I have a beard or mustache or long hair and then I cut it and I change it? In most cases, it doesn't matter. But if you have a significant change in your look or your voice for some reason, there are reasons that could happen. Then if it's a significant change, there may be a re-enrollment or re-registration that has to take place. But moderate changes over time, nothing to worry about.
Thank you, Chris. Now, I'm seeing a question here. It says, many in crypto, I know we've kind of touched on this. Maybe we can kind of just give a short answer for this one here. Many in crypto are wary of supplying identifying information due to recurring data leaks. They use Binance and Ledger as an example. It says, how do I know supplying my biometric information is safe and won't bite me in the future?
Yeah, I could definitely take that one. So something that's interesting is, one of those companies they actually mentioned there, actually pretty much got me for 40 grand earlier this year. So, I definitely understand exactly, what you're, getting about there. I think that in this space, you have people that are hyper aware, they're hyper focused, they are driven, and obviously these people are generally a subset that are technically inclined. They understand what's going on behind the scenes a lot of the time. So, you have that large portion. You also have another large portion that is, involved from a basic point of view. Right now, we're seeing something called, or generally referred to in this space as the degen movement, where there's a lot of people coming in from other areas that normally are not crypto investors or crypto people. So, what that really boils down to is, kind of getting a good, read on the situation. And when people are supplying their information, the way that we store it isn't even stored with Governor DAO, first of all. So Governor DAO is simply a portal for the API here. The API is being provided, obviously, by Finnovant. With that being said now, along the way, there's multiple levels of encryption. It is started on your device and it ends on your device, in the sense that, you are the person providing the information. So as long as the security that you're giving initially, is correct, then in the future it's pretty much good to go. To really showcase that and prove it, I would look towards the other products and services that are offered by Finnovant that are already well trusted. On top of that, I would already look at a payload. You can just take a quick technical look at it. In the future, we will also have technical briefings that show this. Currently, we do have flowcharts at the link I've provided that do show kind of what this looks like. But in general, like I said, there is no type of data besides the public wallet address that is being saved. And that's what's going on our whitelist. So literally all we're doing is collecting wallet addresses that they already are openly given. These are public. This is public information already. As far as the biometrics, when people actually do register, the voice and face, the total file size that's sent is not even a video. The quality of it is barely anything. It's transcribed and read by AI that reads markings on your face as well as intonation in your voice. And from there, it turns it into a token. That token changes over a period of time as well through subsequent logins. So that token also cannot be reverse engineered. It's not like you can make a John Greenwood out of my token. And I'm willing to take out a billboard in LA if I need to with my token on it, because there's just no way. So, I think that there's going to be some really good ways in the future that we're able to show this in a more functional way. But I would refer to our technical documents for now and really just the explanation I gave.
Thank you, John. Now, the next question I have that was presented to us it's going to be more directed at the Governor DAO team. It says, how does Governor DAO engage its own token holders as owners of the project?
Cody, you're muted.
So the way that a DAO works, it's decentralized and owned by the people. Your tokens are your representative weight in the say of the governance of the project. So when we run our votes on Snapshot and in projects in the future where you are able to vote, it's weighted by your holdings in the project. So Governor DAO is a 3 million max supply token. And that'll mean there's only going to be 3 million tokens ever, as opposed to, the 81 million Bitcoin, as opposed to the 1 billion Chainlink, as opposed to the 100 billion XRP. There's only 3 million Governor DAO tokens. So at 125 here, that's, as you scale outward, that has a lot of room for upside. And what we're seeing here is that the ownership of the token and we're transitioning into our governance vault, which will be receiving the payouts from all of the revenue that Governor collects. So the whole goal is to decentralize all of our profits and all of our expenses. And I believe that the DAO model is a superior business model when run correctly. And it is our goal to create you hear me say this again, the standard for how this is run.
Excellent, Cody. Thank you for that. Now, this next question is pretty specific. So there are in this, they're giving three different titles, I guess, or article headlines. And it says Kansas unemployment crisis, jobless, can't get through to the state, but scammers can. The second one says Kansas to shut down unemployment systems to deal with fraud. Then the third one says Kansas Department of Labor paid out 290 million in fraudulent unemployment claims in 2020. It's a lot of money.
Kansas, we'll help you.
Yeah.
Says as someone active politically in my state of Kansas, do you see your new tech as a good solve to securing unemployment programs? Considering the users in this case would be unemployed, would the cost of a smartphone or your tech be a potential sticking point?
Absolutely not. Would not be a barrier. It'd be run by the state. Chris, you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. As far as securing the program, well, I'm sure each state has its own guidelines as to how they identify the recipients. But if you think about that, we're just going to dovetail and we're going to enhance what they're already doing. If I would imagine at some point that they're reaching out, that when the person files for benefits, there's a process in place that they have to identify themselves, whether it's with a driver's license or some other sort of identification. So we can actually plus that up and add biometrics to that. So that person, in order to claim on an ongoing basis, has to use their biometrics. Nobody can claim on their behalf. They are now in the system, and they have proven their identity. So they are then eligible to go ahead and collect. As far as the folks who do or do not have a smart device, I would say that the program would continue to move forward as it is. I'm not familiar with the percentages, but I'll make a very broad assumption that 90% of the people or better are probably filing their recurring claims on electronically. That's a guess. But 90% are doing it today, so they're going to use the channel that they're already using today, whether it's a PC, a desktop, a smartphone, whatever the case may be. The other 10% who may not have access will continue to file the way they are. And whether that means a biometric reader of a sort is installed at a government office, then so be it. That's possibility as well. SafeTech itself, or biometric authentication, can be implemented in a lot of different places, whether it's your smart device, it's a desktop, it's on site somewhere. There's a lot of ways we can make that happen. So I don't think it disenfranchises anyone. And as far as the cost of the program goes, that's the states can take care of that. And most states don't have problem paying for programs. They find a way to make it happen.
Thank you, Chris. I love the versatility of this technology. So the next question I have, this is actually a really great question. It says, how has the lack of regulatory guidance affected your business? How can biometrics authentication affect regulatory and financial institutions?
That's an awesome question. So
Brian?
you, Brian.
Makers.
I want Brian to hit this one.
They've heard me a lot. Brian, go ahead. Why don't you jump in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So biometrics, if we think about like the payment system, there's a whole process in place to authenticate people today. It's anybody that on this call who's watching us, and thank you for your questions, by the way. Anybody who's watching us is going to know about KYC programs, know your customer. They're going to know about the regulation behind tracking money flow, if somebody's depositing or withdrawing a certain amount of money. These things are tracked and they're managed, right, at the financial level. And you can see some conversation in the media and in our government bodies today, the Fed, the SEC. You see a lot of conversation around how currency is going to be manage going forward. They're talking about coming up with a digital currency. So there's all kinds of regulations around the industries that we interact with, whether they're financial, crypto, and insurance related, just about anything. You know, the whole IoT industry, as you get into the layers of security for IoT devices, there's talk about regulation inside of that. So it's everywhere. And we realize this, and there's some great companies out there that we're working with who are lobbying the government. Governor Dow's got a great group here, and thank you, Britton, for all your hard work in this area. We do want to influence the legislature in Wyoming, in Washington, D.C., and around the country. And we appreciate those questions. And we know that the solutions that we implement, whether they're for payments or for any of these areas where there is regulation, that we produce products that meet those regulations. So whether we're validating somebody who is going to be paid by the government, we're validating somebody who wants to deposit money in a bank account, we're validating somebody who wants to buy and sell cryptocurrency, we can do this in a way which is safe and secure and keeps your information from fraudsters. And that is the goal. And we really enjoy that question and working with these industries, because we know that the better this technology works, the more people will want to use it, and the greater success we'll have globally, as we're seeing now with all these products. And we're really proud of Governor Dow for working as hard as they did to implement one voice, one vote, to ensure the person who's voting is the person who says who they are and want to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now the final question we have. This is probably the most important question. When will we witness the first ever fair presidential election?
So I think tailor that question is to tailor it as, when can we see this used by the state? And is our goal here, so for voting, you actually have to pass legislation to do this, and that's all done individually at the state level. So we would contact each individual state and work on with them implementing this within their governing bodies. But for projects like unemployment fraud, that's something we would work with the Department of Labor, and you don't actually have to pass any legislation for this to happen. So the difference in these types of technologies, just the modules of where we can kind of put them in, and we could see. So I believe our next date is to even speak at a 2020 convention for the Republican Party to display this tech, and just being able to show in real world unbiasedly how this tech can work. Because we're not trying to play sides. That's not our goal in mind. We just want the fair is fair. We want the level.
Awesome. Thank you, Cody. And with that, guys, we have run out of questions. I do want to say thank you to all of our audience for their participation and adding their questions and being engaged in this conversation. I also want to thank our panel here, from the Finnovant team, from Brian and Chris, as well as our folks from GDAO, John and Cody. And
if I could, 1 second, Britton, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I just want to take a second to step in and say there are 4 or 5 of us here that are working on the product, but there are a good number of us in Governor Dow and over at Finnovant that you don't see and that are working behind the scenes. And I want to give an extra special thank you and live here to people like Sidewinder and Jeff or Zane, who have been working behind the scenes, and our new partner over here, Frenchie, who's helping us kind of build out our backside and being able to bring this product to life, because you're not going to see these people all the time, but without them, these types of things couldn't exist. And I'm very proud of this team and our partners and the future of this product.
Absolutely, Cody. Well said. And something else too, Britton, thank you as well. Britton, I appreciate your input and moderation here. We couldn't have done it without you. You're an integral member of the GDAO team. And guys, I think next time you can catch us here on BrightTalk or one of our other talks. Until then.
Before we go,
go ahead.
Before we go, I can't let Cody, outshine me here. I have to thank our people too, since we're mentioning them. So I just want to make a special call out to Philip, Mike, Mark, Pat, and Madeline. Without them, this wouldn't happen. So thanks for our team.
How could I forget Phil? Oh man.
Thank you, guys.
So proud of you guys. Thank you so
thanks
much
to the
for this.
BrightTalk
Honestly.
community.
Thank you for
as well.
BrightTalk.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you
you,
to
BrightTalk.
BrightTalk as well.
Absolutely.
Everyone, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
See you on the other side.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right.